Today we're going to make 5 A2 size cards with 4 6x6 sheets of paper and have no scraps left over. Hey guys, it's Beth. Welcome. Today I'm excited to introduce to you my 6x6 no scraps sketch set number 2. Each sketch set has a cutting guide and at least one sketch. This one has 2 sketches. And some things that I note on here, I make sure that you know that you're cutting 4 sheets of 6x6 paper with this cutting guide. And then in this case, you're making 4 of the sketch A2 or 2A card and 1 of the sketch 2B card. So the whole point of this is to utilize your paper efficiently and not have any scraps left over. To follow my guide, I have shades of gray over here on the cutting guide, and those shades correspond to pieces on the card sketch. So you can see here dark gray, light gray, kind of the medium gray, etc. For the sentiment, you can use any shape, and these sketches and guides are a base, like kind of a jumping off point. You can make them as simple or elaborate as you want. So for my cards today, I'm still working through this Welcome Home pad, 6x6 pad from Echo Park. And I have pulled out, since I said that the sketch calls for 4 sheets of paper, it's up to you. You can pull out 4 totally different sheets of paper, or you can pull out 2 sets of 2. So in this case, I'm going with 2 sets of 2. And we will get started on our cards. So I'm going to cut my papers down based on my cutting guide. And one thing you'll want to pay attention to is the orientation of your paper based on the guide. So you can see here that this 4 by 5 1/4 piece, this light gray piece, I'm showing it horizontal on here, but it's going vertical on card sketch 2A. So if you have a paper that is directional, like mine has words on it, so you know the words need to be facing up. So I'm going to turn the sketch this way and cut my paper. So something else to note too is that in this particular pad there is a kind of tab here at the top, a hanging tab with a hole in it, so that adds a little bit of extra length to my paper. Most of the pads or most of the 6x6 papers are true 6x6, so I may have a little bit of extra. Some of it is usable, some of it is not. Like this, it just didn't tear out of the pad well. Sometimes you get glue built up on the papers, so we'll see if I can even do anything with those extra bits. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and cut my sheets down, and like I said, I'm going to turn it so that my 4 by 5 1/4 piece is facing up. And it doesn't really matter which side you're starting on. I just know that I need a 2-inch piece on one end. So now I have my 4 by 5 1/4 piece. This is the leftover piece, and I'm looking for 4 inches by 3/4. And I'm gonna have to go just shy of that because of that hole. So there is that. That is just an extra bit. And then this piece, I want it to be, it's already 2 inches, and I want it to be 2 by 6. So here is my 2 by 6 piece. So I'm going to cut this one down the same way. It is also directional. If you were using, say, like this side, there is no directional pattern to it, so it wouldn't matter. But in this case, I'm going to have to do it the exact same way. Okay, so these are trimmed down. I'm going to go ahead and trim my other set of 2 papers down, and then we can get constructing our cards. Okay, my card pieces are cut and we can start assembling. These we are going to need for the second sketch, so I'm going to set those up here. These I'm just going to flip because of the way we're going to use them. So it's up to you. I don't give you a cutting guide for cardstock matting. If you want to add cardstock matting, you know, to your cards, it does definitely add something to the cards. So by all means add it, but it does generate scraps. So I did not include that on my cutting guide. However, I am going to use card mat for this white sheet just because, I mean, it doesn't look bad because it's not the same white as my card base. And you're not really going to see a ton of my card mat. Like you're only going to see a 1/16 of an inch around it, but it does just help this pattern pop off the card a little bit. So I'm going to use a mat on this one, but not on this one. So I am going to go ahead and get this one made up first. And like I said, you can make these cards as simple or as elaborate as you want. You can add extra embellishments. On this particular sketch set, I do have you use some of the cutoffs from the first sketch to make some embellishments, but you can definitely add more. So there is our card base. And this strip that I have going across, I have it going across the whole front of the A2 card. If you want to have it just go across your card mat, that's fine. You just want to do that before you apply it to your card base. So something else to think about, like this, my strip is going to go across this way, and so my words are going to be sideways, or I can bring in this side. I like the contrast of the black better because the blue, I mean the blue would probably be fine, but I think I'm going to go ahead and use it this way. If it bothers you, like I said, you can, I could mat it, but still the blue, there's nothing else blue. Now the blue and the gray kind of tie in, but I like the black on the white. So I'm going to go with that. Your choice to do what you want. So we are going to put this across, and I kind of show it going pretty much in the middle, maybe a little bit to the top part of middle. And then once you add that on, you're going to trim off the excess. And then part of the excess, I note, is going to go on the inside of your card. And then the other part of the excess, you are going to use to punch circles. Whatever circle punch you have, whatever size you have works, that, you know, as long as it'll work with what scrap you have here. This is a 1/4 inch circle punch. This is from EK Success. So I'm gonna punch those out. And oh, there it is. It's like we lost one. And then this piece, I'm gonna go ahead and add on the inside of my card before it gets lost, because got a lot going on my table here. So we'll just go ahead and put that in here. And then the circles, I call for you to put them underneath here. But again, it's up to you if you want to put them elsewhere. Also, I call, like I said, I think I said that I give you shapes with the sentiments, but you can really use any shape you want. In this case, I am going to use the circle on this one because I do like the circle with all of the straight lines and the edges here. So it would go right here. So what I might actually do while I have my punch out is see if I can get 2 extra. So that I can add them kind of up there after I get my sentiment on. And so then this is what you're left with. I don't call this usable. If you do, you could go ahead and find a way to add that to the inside of your card if you want. Otherwise, recycle, toss, whatever it is you do with your unusable pieces. Okay, so I have a 2-inch circle here that I've already punched. I just took some scrap white cardstock. I have a 2-inch circle punch also from EK Success. And what I'm going to do is I'm using a stamp. I'll show you the stamp set, but it's super old and I don't even have the packaging to know who it's from anymore. But it's a great kind of very versatile, simple sentiment set. So I'm going to go ahead and use that, and I've already got it in my MISTI here. And what I've punched, I kind of use what I punched my circles from as a guide to kind of line up my circle each time so that I can come in and stamp my sentiment. So there is my sentiment. And if I wanted to, I could mat this as well. But I'm not super worried because it's also mostly on that black. So I still think it stands out enough. Again, your choice. You can mat you could have mat the strip going across. You can mat anything you want. But I'm going to put that down there, and then I will add my circles. I should probably make sure that the lettering is facing up. Okay, so there is our first card, and there is the inside. So now on this card, I am not going to add a mat because it's dark matte on white card base. So we are just going to use this one as is. And then my strip here, this time, I do like this side. I think that kind of contrasts well. So I am going to flip this over and use this as my strip going across. So this time, it all depends on whether or not I like the other side. Again, non-directional paper would have been best, but both of mine are have a directional side. So we get that on. Trim that off. Now I think on this one, I'm going to try and see if I can punch my holes. Let me use this one where it's just white. We'll see if I can find enough spots there. Or at least mostly white. In this case, because this is now upside down, I am going to use that kind of greenery side again as what's facing out on the inside of my card. And you can add this wherever you want on the inside. You could add it down on the side, from the bottom, over here, it doesn't matter. I just tend to go on the top right for those types of banners. Got my sentiment stamped the same way I did the first time. Adhere that down, and now I can come and put down okay, there's that card. And again, you could move these circles around if you choose to, put them where you want them. I'm going to make the second set of this sketch, of the 2A sketch, and then we'll be back and we'll make the sketch 2B together. Alright, so now we are going to work on sketch 2B, which uses these little thin strips. And again, it's up to you. I'm missing the strip here. It's up to you if you want to use a mat. In this case, I am, again, because of that white paper. So I'm just bringing in that gray again. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the mat I used on this one, since the pattern paper was 4 by 5 1/4, I just went to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So it's really not a huge mat on that case. This case, it is going to show more. So I will go ahead and adhere my card mat down. And if you are using mats, depending on the size of the mats you use, how much matting you do, you can use some of that extra cardstock to go behind your sentiments to kind of pop those up. You can punch extra holes, extra circles out of them to use as additional embellishments. So there are some ways that you can use up those cardstock scraps as well. But what I'm primarily focused on in my sketch sets are the pattern paper that we all have a ton of. So I think you can space these out as much as you want, especially depending on the size of the sentiment or, you know, embellishment piece that you're going to use in the center there. I think because I'm going to use the same circle sentiment, just because I think a circle will actually look good on here because of all the straight lines, I'm going to, and it's a 2-inch circle, I'm going to kind of scrunch mine together so that there's a bigger border on the top and bottom. Then I will go ahead and lay these down. One thing that while I'm gluing these down, I'll point out that I tend to note how many sheets of 6 by 6 pattern paper you're going to need and how many cards you're going to end up with using that set number of sheets. And what this does is, if you're a planner, it allows you to plan, like say you have leftovers in a 6 by 6 pad and you have 6 sheets left over and you just want to use those up. So you would know that since card sketch set number 2 uses 4 sheets and gives you 5 cards, that you could bring in, say, because we're only on number 2, you could bring in sketch set number 1, which uses really as many sheets as you want, because each sheet of pattern 6 by 6 pattern paper that you use, it gives you one card, you could do that twice. Use 2 different sheets of pattern paper. And so then you know that with those 2 sketch sets, you will have used up those 6 pieces. So here again, if you had, I don't have any leftover bits of that gray other than really thin strips since I did 4 1/8 inch mats. But I always have white card stock scraps. So just to show you that if you really wanted to, if you wanted to pop up your sentiment, you could use some of those leftover bits of cardstock to act as foam tape or dimension behind. And one thing this will do is it will also not show like the ridges and bumps that I'm going to get because of the layers there. So again, you could mat the sentiment if you wanted. You could add additional embellishments here and there. So now on this card, I'm out of extra bits to put on the inside if I didn't have that hanging tab on the top. But because I did have that hanging tab, I can bring in, go bring in this one because it looks decent on that side. I can bring in these extra bits that I have from the very top. And what I'm going to do, and if you have, say you don't have that hanging tab at the top of your pad, but you have extra cardstock left over, use the cardstock to add some interest to the inside of your card. I mean, this is just all about using up the paper, not creating any more scraps for yourself. So by all means, use up those scraps any way you can. And so that is the one card you're going to get with sketch set number 2B, or sketch number 2B. Okay, here are my final 5 cards that I got. This was the second set that I did off camera, and I did have the chipboard accents that went with this pad as well. So I just wanted to show you an example of how you could use an embellishment of some sort in the center there and then add your sentiment separate. You could add it here, you could add it across the top, the bottom, wherever. So this is just another way. And then this time I did my circles in a little bit different way to show you. Feel free to move those circle accents around. This one I did pretty much the same, except for I used the green side of my circles instead of the white. So that's the 5 cards. And again, using 4 sheets of paper, we made 5 A2 size cards, and the scraps that I have left are these little bits where we punched out the circles, and then the top tab, the hanging tab part of the pad, which isn't, I mean, some of them could be usable, but I'm not really overly concerned about that. So because I had that extra bit at the top of my sheets, because they were a little bit larger than 6x6, I did have some extra bits. But normally, if you have just a straight 6x6 sheet of paper, this is what you're going to end up with, and I'm going to call that no scraps. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and we'll check my sketch out. It will be linked in the description box below for you. You can print it out and give it a try. If you do give it a try, I would love for you to tag me at Bourbon Creek Crafts on social media so I can see. And also if you use hashtag BCC No Scraps, I can also find you that way. Thank you guys so much for your time today, and hope you all have a very crafty day.